One thing that a lot of people are indecisive about is obviously Paul Saladino. He's very popular on the social media platforms. A lot of people have this sort of they're not entirely sure which path to go down, the meat and fruit route or the strict carnivore route. Obviously, you had an experiment, a 1 week experiment with fruit. What was your experience like, and what would you say to people who are going through that decision currently?
Well, I mean, I think ultimately you try them both, see what works better for you. I mean, that's the best answer I can give anybody. I mean, the reason I did that was not because I wanted to include fruit in my diet to see what it. I really wanted to see the effect of carbohydrates would have on my LDL cholesterol. I was kind of emulating an experiment that my friend Nick Norwich did with Oreo cookies. I don't want to eat a bunch of Oreos. I'll just try carbohydrates. So I just happen to, we have some apples in our house. My son, my kids still eat things like fruit and things like that. So I said, well, I'm just going to eat some apples, 100 grams of apple carbohydrates from apples a day. And I was going to do it for maybe a couple of weeks. And after a week, I was like, I just can't do it anymore. My stomach was just, it just didn't feel good. And I was like, I don't want to do this. And it didn't really impact my cholesterol anyway, which is, maybe I need to eat because I'm a bigger guy. I might have to eat 200 grams a day. And I just don't want to do that. It's just, it's just not what I want to do. So, but yeah, I mean, I think in my experience, there are many people that try to add fruit back in or go the sort of the fruit and honey route, and they have issues and they regret it, and it wasn't for them. Maybe they feel better for a month or two, and then they eventually start getting the weight back, and their symptoms start returning, and their autoimmune symptoms come back, or their skin gets worse, or they put on body fat, and then they say, "Well, it's not right for me." I mean, but I mean, like anything, I'm not going to begrudge somebody from trying something. If it sounds good to you and it sounds more sustainable and you want to try it. I mean, some people say, well, if you're just a sugar addict and it's just another way to feed your sugar addiction. In a way, I mean, you think about it, if you're consuming 300, 400, 500 grams a day of sweet fruit and honey, I don't know, maybe you're just a sugar addict and you can't quite get that. I know that the rapey people are talking about their own sort of unique take on things, and I obviously think that's some of it's kind of not actually true, but anyway, that's my thought.
hmm Well, humans have been like ever since we started agriculture about 12,000 years ago, we've been crossbreeding these fruits to become sweeter and sweeter. So now they're just ridiculously high in fructose. And obviously fructose is, depends on who you talk to, 7 to 11 times more glycating than glucose. Is this glycation caused by fructose a problem, do you think?
Well, I mean, most of the glycation that occurs secondary to fructose is endogenously produced fructose. And you are correct that anywhere between 5 and 20 fold, I've seen some of the data on there where fructose is more potent at glycation. And I think glycation is an issue. Endogenous glycation and exogenous. You can eat advanced glycation end products, anything that's been seared or brown bread, brown toast, seared meat, all of it. I think those things are minor components. I think that um, uh, there's a number of things that drive that glycation process. Hyperglycemia is one. The polyol pathway, which involves fructose metabolism, but it's usually glucose going to sorbitol, going to fructose, um, is another issue. And again, when you have this endogenously derived fructose floating around, it is very potently glycating. I don't know how much the fructose ingestion drives that, because fructose is a, you've got um, it's processed by our liver and altered in some ways. And then, of course, lipid peroxidation end products also derive the glycation, and that may have to do with fats that we involve, which we ingest. And it's controversial. Some people would say it's the seed oils that's driving that, and there may be some merit to that. So I think, there are a number of studies that would point out that fructose can be a problem, particularly in the form of high fructose corn syrup. I mean, I think most people would agree with that. Now, people get defensive and say, well, it's different. It's fruit sugar. It's got all these other beneficial, vitamins and minerals, and it's limited by the fiber content. And I think some of that is probably of merit, is with merit, but the molecule is still the molecule. And for some people, it becomes what is excessive. There's studies on animals that show that, when you get into like 70, the equivalent of with an animal, the equivalent of about 75 grams of fructose, which is a lot of bananas. I mean, the 30 banana peoples a day are probably consuming that. A banana or two, piece of fruit, probably not enough to be driving that particular issue. Now, it may drive other issues. It may drive gut issues. Like me, I wasn't eating 75 grams of fructose. Even though I was eating 100 grams of carbohydrates, it was still less. It was still less than, and again, I'm 260 at the time. So it would still be underdosed for me, but I was having gut issues. I was just like, this isn't working for me. So anyway, I think fruit can be, again, it's going to be personal tolerance. I mean, obviously people will say, well, carbohydrates are okay if you're an athlete and you're using them in the peri-workout period of time. And there's probably some relevance to that. At the end of the day, you don't want to be fat. I mean, I think that's a reality. Don't be fat. Don't, I mean, that's a lot of what health should be from.